So the GameTrailers Game of the Year Awards are about to start, and we have a lot of discussions here at GameTrailers, and there's arguing, and eventually we figure out the nominees and decide a winner. But there's a lot of opinions here, and 2013 had a lot of great games, so I kind of, opened it up to the floor for whoever wanted to talk about their favorite games, games that were overlooked, anything that anyone wanted to talk about. Give them their 2 minutes in the sun, or 2 minutes on the web, I guess, to talk about great games or games that really affected them this year.
This year, I finally got to review games, which I hadn't done since 2007, so about 6 years ago. And I reviewed Grand Theft Auto 5 and Batman Arkham Origins and Disney Infinity, all which I thought were really great games. A lot of people scored Arkham Origins a lot lower than I did, but I still thought it was really great. I think that game is mostly based on expectations. I think a lot of people really wanted it to be continuing more of the franchise, kind of like branching out into new fun directions, and it just kind of did more of the same. But my expectations were pretty low for Arkham Origins, and I was pleasantly surprised. Disney Infinity, I also did a complete 180 on this year, which was really refreshing when I went to go see it at E3 and learned a lot more about it, actually, paid attention to it, which I unfortunately hadn't done before. It turned out to be a really great game. Even the sandbox mode, I think, is something that not only this year, but in gaming, we don't see a lot of. Little Big Planet, you can build levels, but to have a 3D open world level builder is really fun. It's something that's I've continually gone back to as they release more stuff and played around with. So I will anticipate playing more of that in 2014. And of course, Grand Theft Auto 5 is easily one of the best games of the year. Without a doubt, it's the best Grand Theft Auto game that's ever been made, and is just astounding how much stuff there is in that game, how much stuff there is to see. The voiceover just keeps going and going and going. There's just no way to hear all of it in one playthrough. And even at this point, all the online stuff that I've been playing, I'm still hearing new stuff. So those games are incredible.
I've been playing Starbound recently, and I just heard about it like a couple of days ago, actually. And I got in on the beta, and it's a really fun game. And I like the premise of it, the fact that it's, space exploration. It has that kind of Minecraft-y Terraria kind of feel, obviously. And, it does very well to give you that sense of wonderment and that sense of kind of awe about just an expansive universe that is procedurally generated and essentially has, as of right now, the kind of storyline that you make for it, as opposed to some, pre-written kind of force you down a pipe, storyline, which, in the coming months, perhaps they do write a nice, elegant story for us. But for the time being, I like the quietness of just being able to kind of roam and see these, these distant stars and the planets that surround them. I've had a lot of fun with it. I like crafting, and I'm really looking forward to what the game has to offer. I know a lot of people got excited about that one game that came out at VGX. I think it's called No Man's Sky, and a lot of people got excited about that, at least I saw on the internet. And so I'm really excited about this game the same way that people are excited about that. I think it's kind of a very similar game, just one is kind of 16-bit, one is like super next gen. So yeah, I'm looking forward to, playing sci-fi expansive, sandboxes, for lack of a better term.
This was a fun year because I had to play a lot of Kingdom Hearts for the Kingdom Hearts timeline. So I played more Kingdom Hearts than I've ever played in my life, but it was actually a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing that project. I just want to give some special shout outs to a few games I played this year that I really enjoyed, whether I reviewed them or not. Though most of these I did review. Metal Gear Solid Rising Revengeance. I really love the Devil May Cry games. I really love Bayonetta, and I really love this game. I think it has an amazing combat system, and I really like the parrying. I know a lot of people didn't get it, and it was a little bit difficult for some people, but I think that's what made that game really awesome, was just the combat in it, and the parry system, and the fact that Platinum kind of pulled a rabbit out of their hat with that game, since it probably was like in development hell. Ni no Kuni also came out early this year. I love Studio Ghibli, or Ghibli, whichever you want to say. Yeah, I love Miyazaki's films, and I was just glad to see a video game version of some of their work actually happen. It's like a once-in-a-lifetime thing. So that was really good to see that. Also, Tales of Exilia. I had a lot of fun with that game. I hope Tales series continues to try and do new things like it was starting to do in that game, because they were getting kind of like bland and old.
I also liked Plants vs. Zombies 2, finally, which came out. It's about time. That was really fun. I'm still playing that. And I like that I haven't given any money to the game, even though I love PopCap, and I'm so happy that they've brought the franchise back. But I've really been experimenting not spending money on Plants vs. Zombies and just going through, earning currency the hard way, and it's still really fun. So hats off to them for finally releasing Plants vs. Zombies 2. Also hats off to Square Enix for not messing up Final Fantasy XIV on their re-release for A Realm Reborn. That was talk about low expectations, and that's really impressive that they managed to turn that around and actually make a fun game. I haven't been able to put as much time into Realm Reborn as I want to, but that was very unexpected, that they fixed pretty much everything that was broken about that game, and are really one of the only big MMO stories to come out of 2013, so hats off to them. Finally, in a random note, I recommend the game Castle Storm. It was on Xbox Live Arcade. I think it might be on PC as well. It's really good on Xbox, though, because it's a tower defense game, and the aiming controls of the turret work really well with analog sticks. But it's an action game. It's a tower defense game, kind of like Angry Birds, and it's a troop management game. It's kind of like 3 games in one, and you play them all at the same time. And the levels play up the strengths of the different variety of gameplay types that are in the game. And it has a great attitude to it. The cinemas are really easy to skip through when you can still get the story. And it was really fun. I'm a huge fan of tower defense, so if you're not into tower defense, I don't recommend it. But again, Castle Storm on Xbox was very fun. And of course, new consoles, so many great games to play, but those are the games I really focused on this year. And it was fun rejoining the editorial team and getting to review stuff and score stuff. And hopefully you don't think I scored stuff too high. See you next year.
So one game that I enjoyed this year that I thought was a little bit different than normal was the Stanley Parable. And you've probably heard about it, but if you haven't played it, I really suggest you do. It's not that expensive, and it's not even that long. It has a lot of faults. The game's a bit didactic. It's kind of preachy at times, and it covers stuff that some people already know. The main theme of the game is trying to question whether a game can have freedom and story at the same time. And if you talk about games all the time, if you're the kind of the person that watches videos like this, you've probably thought about that already. But the great thing is a lot of people haven't. And so it's a great way to explore that through video games. And in a way, it's kind of silly. It's kind of like doing a speaking presentation on public speaking, if you've ever sat through one of those. But it actually works out really well. It's a good game. And the premise is really simple. There's a guy named Stanley. He does everything he's told. One day, he stands up from his desk, walks into a room, and the narrator says,
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
the question is, you as a player, do you take the door on the left or do you go through the one on the right? And the game spends pretty much all of its time exploring that really in depth. And there's a lot of game design stuff going on. And I don't want to get into spoilers, but it's really interesting, not just for advanced hardcore players like most of you probably are, but also for people who don't normally play games, for people who think that all games are Gears of War and dude bro fests played by frat guys. And so if you haven't played the game and you're really into like game design stuff, play it. If you haven't played the game and you're just kind of casual about video games, play it. If you've already played the game, and you should have, then grab someone who doesn't like video games, who doesn't play video games, and have them play it. Because they're going to start to really appreciate what video games really are.
I need to give a shout outs to Final Fantasy XIV A Realm Reborn, because I talked a lot of shit about Final Fantasy XIV when I reviewed it when it first came out. Version 1.0 is terrible. I think everyone knows it's terrible. Even the hardest core fans know that game was terrible. But Naoki Yoshida, he took over that project, and it was incredible to actually talk with that guy and see how not humble he was, but how matter-of-fact he was about how bad that game sucked and how serious they were, Square Enix that is, about making that game better. And for the past, since that game came out, especially for past 2 months now, all I've been doing most weeknights is running Amdapur Keep and Wanderer's Palace to get all my tomes, to hit my weekly caps, because That game is addicting, even though it borrows a lot from other games, but it's just insane to see Square Enix admit its mistakes and stick with something and actually turn it into something really good, and not ashamed to admit that they are no longer the best at making their own games, that they needed to look elsewhere for inspiration. So special shouts to that. And then of course Mario and Zelda. I trash talked those games a lot at E3, especially like Zelda, because I wasn't excited about the prospect of a sequel to A Link to the Past. I felt they should leave that game alone and just make new Zelda games. Boy was I wrong. That game is really amazing. If you haven't played it, you really should play it. And then Super Mario 3D World, I thought that was just going to be a rehash of Super Mario 3D Land. I thought Nintendo was going to be lazy, but yeah, the cat suit and the double cherry power-ups and some of those late game levels are really challenging. So glad that Wii U at least got a pretty damn good game at the end, and hopefully it's a sign of things to come for Nintendo, because they could really use some help right now with the system. So.
Well, my favorite game this year was definitely Kerbal Space Program. I was kind of a Minecraft junkie a few years ago, and even like until I discovered this game, and it kind of merges two things I'm really passionate about, which is space exploration, like space probes and all that type of science stuff, with the creative aspect of Minecraft. And it's just a really fun game. You learn so much from. I've never learned as much as I learned from any game other than until I discovered this game. Like, it's just really good, and I think everyone should try it. It's really cheap on Steam. I think it's like $20-25, or you could buy it straight from their site, and it's DRM free. Yeah, try it out. And there's a lot of tutorials out there that'll help you get really good at it, and you just get this really good sense of accomplishment when you do something that you've been planning for months sometimes to accomplish, and you can't really ask for anything better from a game than that.
Since I gave like 5 months of my life to Animal Crossing, I should probably bring that up. So I played about 2 hours a day from like May something until middle of October. I think that game just did a better job overall of just, even though it's always been kind of a social community-focused game, it was just a lot better at that. Like just being able to take pictures and post them up to Twitter automatically and things like that, and just share what was going on was great. And I actually did get into some online groups and met a lot of people this time around. 2 games I was actually very wrong on going into, both Ubisoft games, so I don't know what's going on in maybe their marketing. There was Splinter Cell, which I thought was just going to be utter trash, and actually ended up being one of the best Splinter Cell games. Really give you a lot of freedom in the stealth there. And then the other one was Assassin's Creed, which, having just come off of Assassin's Creed 3, I was like, all right, I'm gonna like hammer this in and give it like the review it deserves, and like, oh, it deserves a really good review. So yeah, I'd say those are some of my highlights there, along with Monaco. I went into that totally blind, and it ended up being really fun.
Naturally, everyone knows that I'm the Assassin's Creed girl, and absolutely enjoyed Black Flag. I'm playing it for the second time on my second console this year, but I'm gonna take this moment to talk about The Last of Us. I absolutely enjoyed it. I love the Naughty Dog guys, and I hate zombie. I know they're not zombie. I can't pronounce what they actually were, but I tortured myself to play through that game, shaking, trembling, totally scared the whole time. I loved it. The story was great. The gameplay was great. Love those guys, love that game. And if you haven't checked it out and you are afraid of zombies, suffer through it because it's worth it.